University, led by the legendary coach Al McGuire, captured its first and only national championship. A key member of that championship squad was Butch Lee, the first Latino to be named Most Outstanding Player of the Final Four and one of the most decorated basketball players you may not have heard of.
Where do basketball players come from? We've all heard about the small-town hoops of Indiana and the sweltering playgrounds of New York City. But what about this place? Puerto Rico. Yo soy Boricua, pa' que tú lo sepa. Puerto Rican pride, it finds you. Butch Lee has won basketball titles at every level, in English and Spanish. High school champion, player of the year, NCAA champion, campeón de baloncesto superior nacional, and a ring with the Lakers, the first Latino ever to make it to the NBA.
Looking good, Papi.
Puerto Rican by birth, Butch grew up a Harlem basketball street legend until he found his way back home. And when you're Boricua, home is this island.
I knew I was born in Puerto Rico, and my birth certificate was in Spanish, but I grew up thinking that I was just another black kid growing up in Harlem playing basketball. And not until I came back to Puerto Rico did I start developing an understanding of the culture and also my place in the Puerto Rican basketball.
Trying to be the first to ever go to a 20th Final Four.
Moving back to San Juan after his pro career ended, Butch made a home in Guaynabo, getting married, opening a business, and working on his Spanish. But every March, his decorated resume pales next to his proudest victory.
To give a lead back to North Carolina.
There's no doubt that winning the NCAA championship, that's the #1 moment in my basketball career.
Small versus big right there.
One of the things I try to share with the young guys, I'm pretty much the size of everybody. You know, I'm not a 7 foot or anything like that. So I kind of like to be a little motivation that if I was able to do those big things in basketball, that they can do those things as well. Que faltaba muchas veces fue un poquito más de tiempo para estar ready. That's kind of good when you're a little guy playing in a big man's game. They're probably the best 2 shooters of all the kids. All the feelings that the player have in getting to the championship, playing in the NCAA tournament, I've had all those feelings. So this is like a good time of year for me. I can relate to all of the players.
May for the win! With 0.3 seconds to go!
In the 4 decades since Marquette's sole NCAA title, an island in love with baseball has been catching up with basketball, and the city boy from Harlem has become the Boricua from San Juan.
Buenas tardes, soy Maricel Rivera de CBS Puerto Rico. March Madness está en el aire y 4 equipos se dirigieron a los Final Four en Arizona.
Here in Puerto Rico, they just now starting to understand, oh, he did that. He won that championship. He won that award. They starting to feel that more and more like, oh, that was something special that he did.
They call him the man with all the rings. He won a title in high school, Puerto Rico, college, and the NBA. And ain't too many people do that.
This is the last stop of the 1977 collegiate basketball season.
Number 15, guard, Butch Lee.
The quickness of Lee and his strength. Lee's out in front. Jumper up. He hits it. And Marquette has won the national championship. Butch Lee is our most valuable player.
On an unassuming island just 35 miles wide, one of basketball's most decorated players keeps his old rusting trophies stowed away in the garage. But the passing years haven't diminished his accomplishments. Yo soy Boricua para que tú lo sepas. Yeah, that pride, it finds you.
I'm in a very satisfying place. You know, I've been there and I've done that. So when I hear guys telling stories, I don't have to envy anybody of their stories, you know, because I love my story. You know, I love the story that I have.
And we love the story that you have too, and we love the way that Sarah Rinaldi produced that piece on Butch Lee and Mark Heck.
Yeah, well, growing up in New York City, you know, he was someone you always looked up to. There's certain guys that, you know, there's Tiny Archibald, Butch Lee, that came out of New York and being a smaller guard that just took over and transcended basketball. And it was funny because when I didn't know he was Puerto Rican until he played in the Olympics.
Right.
Because he was from New York, and he was like, he's from Harlem. And we knew him as Butch Lee from Harlem. And that's what I knew. And then all of a sudden I'm watching the Olympics, I think it was 76 Olympics when I was a young kid. And I'm like, what is Butch Lee doing playing against America? But Ernie, the crazy thing is, he almost single-handedly beat the American team then.
Right.
And he was that good because at that era, it was put the ball in your guard's hand, and he would develop, there was no shot clock, and he could just run it down, and he was strong enough, he could shoot it, and he would get to the lane. A lot like the guards we see in present day. What they do now, you're able to be a scoring point guard and be 5'11", 6 feet. You couldn't do that before. So he was one of my idols watching.
Wow. A couple things. Number one, I think it's number one, he obviously has an outstanding college career. But just to go back home and trying to make a difference, opening up a restaurant and thing like that, because Puerto Rico is one of the coolest places I've ever been fortunate enough to visit. That's my first takeaway from that. My second takeaway is, you guys in Carolina are getting really good at losing these championship games.
Oh, we got 5, brother.
That was a shot.
You had to go there.
We got 5.
No, he didn't. He didn't have to. He didn't have
And
to.
Phil Ford got one too.
No, just saying.
And he lost that one, but he got one too.
You had to go there.
We got 5.
No, he didn't. He didn't have to. He didn't have
And
to.
Phil Ford got one too.
No, just
And
saying.
he lost that one, but he got one too. He got one too. Same team.
Down there,
Yes, sir.
Down there at the
Michael
Omni in
Curry.
Atlanta, man.
Don't
The
worry about
Omni.
it. That's okay. But hey, I'm not gonna lie. I was rooting for Butch Lee. I was from New York.
He had that kind of game. He had that
Yeah,
kind
I
of
was rooting for him.
That kind of
I was rooting for him. No, I was rooting for Butch. I wasn't a Carolina guy then. I was a New York guy then.
Yeah,
New York came first. Then Carolina came second.
I feel that.
I was
feel
rooting
that,
for Butch Lee back then. I'm not even gonna lie.
And that snapshot, Butch Lee, McGuire, that's just one of those pages in the annals of the Final Four.
And it really is a special picture and moment and memory for me, because that was Al McGuire's last game as a head coach, and he went out on top. One of the most colorful, charismatic coaches that we've ever had, and one of the real clever guys in being able to discern people and read people. I had the privilege of working with him just a little bit here. And you know one of the things Al McGuire told me?
What did he tell you?
He said, be careful when you rehearse, because folks might steal your good stuff. And I put that into practice. I keep my mouth tight during rehearsal.
Clark, it's been known to happen.
Just for the record, we've been working with you for 7 years. We're not going to steal none of your stuff.
Let me, before we head to break, obviously we have such a good time doing this in 7 years with this partnership with CBS.
Yes.
and working with Clark Kellogg and Jim Nance and folks like that, and Greg Gumbel. And it's a very busy time because we got the NBA playoffs coming.